From spreading fear and intimidation in society to unforgivable brutal crimes against humanity, these individuals now face the music they deserve. Shannon Marie Conley. Shannon Marie Conley was barely out of high school when she converted to Islam and allegedly sought to travel to Syria to marry a Tunisian ISIS fighter she met online. The two became engaged and conspired to work together on behalf of ISIS in Syria. Before traveling to Syria, the young girl joined the U.S. Army Explorers to be trained in military tactics as well as firearms so she could provide her support and assistance to any ISIS fighters. Conley's plans were thwarted when the FBI arrested the attempted foreign fighter for ISIS in April 2014 at the Denver airport after she was done purchasing a one-way flight to Turkey. Conspiring to provide material support to a foreign terrorist organization is a serious federal crime. The defendant in this case got lucky. The FBI arrested her after determining that she had been radicalized and planned to travel to Syria to support the brutal foreign terrorist organizations operating there. Had she succeeded in her plan to get to Syria, she would likely have been brutalized, killed, or sent back to the United States to commit other crimes. Christopher Cornell. Christopher Lee Cornell is a convicted domestic terrorist from Ohio who planned to carry out a fatal attack on behalf of ISIS. He was arrested in January 2015 by the FBI's Joint Terrorism Task Force. In August, he readily pleaded guilty to charges of plotting, planning, and attempting an attack on government officials during the State of the Union address at the encouragement of the terrorist organization. During his trial, the young American confessed that he had extensively researched weapons and the construction of bombs. According to the gun store manager, Cornell had seemed strangely shy and bashful, though there was nothing really out of the ordinary about him. However, his intentions were far from pure, as he bought 2 semi-automatic rifles and approximately 600 rounds of ammunition to kill all of the officers present at the Union address. Eventually, Cornell was sentenced to 30 years in prison in December 2016. While exiting the court in shackles, he yelled out, "Allah is in control, not this judge," and angrily shouted that the legal system was rigged. Even while in jail, Cornell continued to promote violence and extremism from prison, instigating others to fight against the disbelieving people of America. Justin Sullivan. Justin Nogin Sullivan is a U.S. citizen who converted to Islam and attempted domestic terrorism in 2015. In late June, the young North Carolina man was arrested and charged with attempting to carry out an act of international terrorism on behalf of ISIS. He pleaded guilty to the charge in November 2016. According to the court records, Sullivan started searching for and downloading violent ISIS atrocities on the internet, such as beheadings, in September 2014. He obsessively saved them on his laptop computer to watch them repeatedly. According to the court documents, Sullivan publicly voiced allegiances to ISIS in his house and damaged religious artifacts belonging to his parents. Beginning no later than June 2015, Sullivan conspired with Junaid Hussain, a senior ISIS member responsible for online recruitment and providing direction for terrorist plots in Western countries. According to plea-related documents, the two planned mass shooting attacks in North Carolina and Virginia. Moreover, Sullivan discussed his vile plans online with an undercover FBI agent he was trying to recruit to assist in such attacks. The young American hoped to kill up to 1,000 people with automatic rifle fire at a club or bar. His recruiter, Hussain, also instructed Sullivan to be sure to record a video of the attack. In late June, Sullivan and the undercover agent were supposed to have attended gun shows in the North Carolina, Virginia area where they hoped to purchase automatic rifles. However, law enforcement agents arrested Sullivan at his parents' home before his sinister plans could come to fruition. According to the special agent in charge of the investigation, John Strong, Justin Sullivan planned to kill hundreds of innocent people. He pledged his support to the Islamic State and took calculated steps to commit a murderous rampage to prove his allegiance to the terrorist organization. Ultimately, Justin Sullivan was sentenced to life in federal prison on the terrorist charge in 2017. Mohammed Khalifa. Mohammed Khalifa is a Saudi-born Canadian citizen who was the English-language narrator in 15 ISIS propaganda videos, including some of its most violent fare. It had been long speculated that the two most important Islamic State war videos, Flames of War and Flames of War 2 were narrated by a Canadian man. Khalifa admitted that he did appear in the final scenes of the 2 documentary-length Islamic State videos, where he executed Syrian soldiers who had been forced to dig their own graves before they were ruthlessly executed. Before joining the terrorist organization, Khalifa claimed he had a normal life back in Canada, but he gave it all up. I had a normal life back in Canada. I was doing very well for myself, and I decided to give it up. I was happy just coming to a place where we could live in an Islamic state and implement the Sharia. Eventually, he was captured in a clash with the Syrian Democratic Forces in January 2019 and was flown to Virginia and arrested by the Federal Bureau of Investigation. He was charged with the material terrorism support leading to death, alleging that he was responsible for publicizing the infamous video of James Foley's beheading. The acting U.S. Attorney, Raj Parekh, described Khalifa as the voice behind the violence. Similarly, U.S. District Judge T.S. Ellis III described Khalifa as the Pied Piper who played the tune. This is due to the fact that Khalifa single-handedly enabled the IS to reach English speakers in the United States and Europe with violent propaganda. In fact, he was so good at his gruesome job that the terrorist cell managed to recruit 40,000 to 60,000 foreign fighters to Syria in the war thanks to his efforts. Finally, on the 29th of July, 2022, Khalifa was sentenced to life in prison. During his trial and interviews, Khalifa expressed zero remorse for his actions, saying he wanted to return to Canada with his wife and 3 children, but on the condition that he would not be tried there. El-Shafi El-Sheikh. El-Shafi El-Sheikh, one of 3 British men accused of running a barbarous ISIS hostage-taking operation, was found guilty on 8 counts by a jury in Virginia, including 4 counts of hostage kidnapping resulting in death, murder conspiracy, and conspiracy to provide material aid to the terrorist organization. He's been sentenced to life in prison for his heinous crimes. It was one of the most significant prosecutions of an ISIS terrorist in the US, and the jury deliberated for less than 6 hours at the end of a 2-week trial before declaring El-Sheikh guilty of his role in the murders of 4 American journalists. According to CBS, El-Shafi El-Sheikh, a British national of Sudanese heritage, was a member of an ISIS cell named the Beatles. The British media dubbed him Jihad Ringo after the famous drummer. El-Sheikh and his accomplices, Alexander Cody and Mohammed Emwazi, are reported to be members of the group who volunteered to fight for the terror cell ISIS in Syria. They were assigned to protect Western hostages. According to ABC, El-Shafi El-Sheikh and the other Beatles had a fearsome reputation among ISIS operators for being crueler than their Syrian colleagues, allegedly participating in multiple tortures and beheading cases. According to U.S. authorities, the organization beheaded 27 hostages. Among the victims was James Foley, an American video reporter and journalist who was purportedly beheaded by Mohammed Emwazi, the Beatles leader known as Jihadi John. They are also accused of being responsible for the killings of British relief workers David Haynes and Alex Henning, and Japanese journalists Haruna Yukawa and Kenji Goto. El-Sheikh wasn't accused of carrying out the acts of killings himself. However, he was charged with participating in the kidnapping and torture of these hostages. Some of the victims were beheaded, and their executions were videotaped and shared on social media. The killing sparked a worldwide outcry. As his fate was sealed after the court hearing, El-Sheikh displayed little emotion and declined an opportunity to speak to the court. El-Sheikh displayed aloofness, as if he felt no remorse for his actions by covering his facial expressions with a black face mask and large glasses. During closing arguments, First Assistant U.S. Attorney Raj Parekh stated, "This defendant put the terror in terrorism himself." Carl Mueller, the father of the victim Kayla, expressed his relief at the justice served by the U.S. court, saying, "I think the punishment fits the crime. He will spend the rest of his life in his cell. I believe the sentence he will get will be worse than death. He's going to spend the rest of his living days in his cell." Click on one of the 2 videos on screen.